Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Nice to be together. Pretty small day today. I think this is my smallest day at Beth Hillel Bethel, but there's still a lot of people here. Because it's so small, I think let's turn to a friend that you haven't asked how they're doing yet. If there's a friend around you that you haven't asked how they're doing yet, make a new friend for a minute. Nope. How's everyone doing? Okay. We're so used to our spots that, it's hard to find somebody new. But maybe today we'll challenge you to find someone new at Kiddush. So I was on my way home from Miami yesterday, which I just want to share that you probably all know that I'm from California, and I swore that I would never do this crazy thing, which is what all the East Coasters do, which is escape to Florida to escape this cold, because I was like, I'll just go to LA. But LA is very far once you've been here for a decade. Like my first or second year was like, a 6-hour flight is no big deal. But now it's like over a decade. LA is very far away. And I'm converted. Going to Florida is the most amazing thing in the world. I totally understand. Okay, so I was like flying back from Florida. I was like, let's find some cool Torah to share. So this is my definition of cool Torah. I hope you'll find it cool too. Okay, so we have this really dramatic moment in this Torah portion where Jacob and Joseph, father and son, haven't seen each other in over 2 decades. Since Joseph was a child, Jacob hadn't seen him. For all Jacob knew, Joseph was dead. And when Joseph started to figure out that he would be able to see his father again, he had to come up with some creative, or the Torah tells us that there was some creative way that the two of them reunited. So this is what happens. The brothers returned to Canaan, Joseph's brothers, Jacob's sons, returned to Canaan with this crazy news to Jacob. Joseph is still alive. And the Torah tells us that Jacob's heart went totally numb. It says, Vayafog libo. And this total numbness can be interpreted that Jacob didn't really believe him. How could he believe How could he believe his sons? Because words had betrayed him before. The day that the brothers brought Joseph's bloodied coat and said, look, your son is dead. How could he believe him now? How could he trust these words that Joseph was alive? But the Torah sort of tells us in this immediate shift. They told him all of these words of Joseph, and then Jacob saw something, not just saw words, not just heard words, but saw something. They saw the wagons that Joseph sent to carry him. And the spirit, it tells us, the spirit of Jacob revived. So when Jacob first heard words, he was numb. He remained unmoved. But then he saw wagons. There was something about these wagons that suddenly Jacob's spirit becomes alive. So the question that we have here is, what was it about these wagons that words couldn't accomplish? What did Jacob see when he looked at him? This is where I think the Torah is sort of cool. Okay, so Rashi offers a really startling answer. The wagons, in Hebrew agalot, were more than transportation. They were a coded message. The word agalah hints at the word eglah, which the laws of eglah arufah, which we'll talk about in a moment, the Midrash tells us are the last thing that Jacob and Joseph studied together before their separation. These laws, which is the laws of a heifer whose neck is broken, they apparently studied them together before Joseph was thrown in the pit. So somehow the Midrash thinks that Joseph was sending a signal that only his father would understand. He's saying, like, I remember you. I'm still your son. This is what we learned together, and it's still alive in me. It's sort of a strange proof that the rabbis create here. It's not a childhood memory or a physical sign or a message of love. It's not an I miss you. But he's saying, do you remember what we were learning? And it's not just any text, but this text is really peculiar in this moment. The Eglah Arufah is a law about an unresolved death, and it's one of the strangest rituals in the Torah. This is it. If a traveler is found dead in a field and the killer is unknown, the elders of the nearest city must perform a ceremony. They must wash their hands and declare, "Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it." And the Talmud asks about these laws, would we really think that these town elders are murderers? Why do they have to wash their hands of this strange murder that happened somewhere else? And the Talmud says no. What the Talmud wants these elders to say is, we didn't let this person leave our city without food, and we didn't let them leave without an escort. Or an accompaniment, or in Hebrew, a levaya. Does anybody know what we use the word levaya for? It's a funeral. So it's like literally like we didn't accompany this person. So what Joseph sends back to his father is not just proof that he lives, it is proof that this rupture that was only caused by his brothers, not by Jacob himself, did not erase the bond between son and father. When we think of this tragedy of the Eglah Arufah, it's the tragedy of somebody who's allowed to walk alone. And Joseph sort of walked alone for many, many years. So what Joseph reminds Jacob of, in reminding him of this law, is touching this really raw nerve in their shared history. On the day that Joseph was sold, Jacob had sent him out to check on his brothers. Joseph had left his father's city, and he had left this wagon represented this law. Unfold in front of us at this moment that Jacob's sons tell him that they are reunited. So this is what the Kliyakar says. He asks, is it really Rashi's way to completely remove a verse from its plain meaning? Meaning, we said Agala, and then we got to Eglah Arufah, and we've totally erased the plain meaning of the verse. The word agalot clearly means wagons, actual physical vehicles that Pharaoh provided to transport Jacob's family. Why would Rashi abandon this completely straightforward story that is told in this verse? The Kliyakar then offers a different approach. He suggests that when the Torah says the wagons that Joseph sent, rather than the wagons that Pharaoh sent, it's highlighting something specific. Joseph didn't just send the wagons, but Joseph escorted the wagons. He lelavot to accompany the wagons. Joseph wasn't just reminding Jacob of the Eglah Arufah as this intellectual memory of we sat in the Beit Midrash and we studied together. He was correcting a failure that the law addresses. The tragedy of this Eglah Arufah law is that the person is sent out alone without an escort and meets disaster. That was Joseph's exact story. He was sent out alone, there was no escort, and he sort of meets disaster. He overcomes it, but he meets disaster. But now Joseph reverses this abandonment. He doesn't just send wagons to collect his father, he escorts them. He provides the levaya that he himself never received. And then the message becomes even more powerful. He says, to my father, I remember what happened. I remember that I was sent out alone, but I won't let that happen to you. I'm going to accompany you on this journey of being close to death, even from a distance. You're not going to travel unescorted, at least when you come back to me. According to the Kliakar, the wagons themselves become proof, not through wordplay, but through Joseph's actions. By escorting the wagons, Joseph demonstrates that he still understands the values his father taught him. He learned the law of Eglah Arufah, not just intellectually, but in his bones, through a painful experience. And now he applies it back to his father with love and care. Like I said, this is what we do at a funeral, levayat hamet. We accompany the deceased. We walk with them on their final journey because we refuse to let anyone make that passage alone. And it's considered, or it is, one of the greatest kindnesses that we can show another person, precisely because that person can't thank us or repay us. And this law of Eglah Arufah is about this kind of accompaniment, the accompaniment that you are going somewhere and don't have anyone to escort you. But Joseph sort of reverses this kind of abandonment. He says that we can actually accompany somebody in life. He provides levaya, but not for the dead. He does it for the living. He escorts his father on a journey into the unknown, into Egypt, into a future filled with uncertainty of reuniting, of meeting them again. And he's saying, Father, I remember what it is to travel alone. I remember what you taught me about levaya, about the importance of accompaniment. And I will not let you experience what I experienced. You're not going to journey to me unaccompanied. When we think about accompanying not just the dead, we can follow this really powerful lesson that Joseph teaches us about accompanying the living, accompanying each other. And when we do that, we get to know each other on a deeper level. Whether it's through a difficult period or just a regular period of our lives, or even accompanying each other through shul each Saturday, we walk alongside each other, not just because we can repay the kindness, but because we know that our lives aren't meant to be alone. Ultimately, near the end of his life, Jacob's previously broken spirit is revived, which is ultimately what the end of the verse tells us. His spirit is revived by seeing this teaching transformed into action. His son's pain is transformed into compassion, and his fear of abandonment met with real accompaniment. Shabbat Shalom.